Coming in hot from Arizona, this is Trevor
and Troy Howard.
And you're on So Tell Us Time. You can have everything you want in your business. Sometimes you just need a little help.
Every business owner would love to charge more for their services, but sometimes you can sacrifice long-term loyalty for a short-term profit.
Creating the right rituals is key to your business having success.
Are you tired of competing with your competitors? Guess what? You don't have to compete if you create.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of So Tell Us Time. We're excited to be here with you guys today. As promised, Troy is back this week. Woo! Everybody's so excited that Troy's back. We know, I get it. It was fun. So at one of the events that we just recently were at, we got to run into several of our listeners, right? And it was hilarious because one of them comes up to me and he's like, now I always listen. I haven't gotten on YouTube yet, but I do listen while I'm driving. And he's like, which one are you again? And I started to talk and he goes, oh, I know which one you are. You're Trevor. And I said, yeah, that is. I'm Trevor. And he goes, I can always tell because you've got that voice that sounds like you've been smoking for 40 years. And wow. I loved it. I totally laughed. I was like, that's awesome. That is hilarious. Troy's got that smooth voice. You know, I've got that rusty old voice, and I'm okay with that. It comes in handy when I've got to be the bad guy in the company, right? when the employees are out of whack or something, Troy just sends me into the company meeting and says, take over, Trevor. So
that's right.
I think we used to sound a lot more alike. People used to say we sounded alike all the time. Apparently now, you know, my 40 years of smoking has caught up to me.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. That means you were smoking in the womb or earlier.
Yeah, exactly. Because I am not yet 40. Come December, I will be 40. So I loved it. I thought it was hilarious, and that was great. So to my listener, you know who you are. I love you. That was awesome. Made me laugh. I appreciate it. All right, today we're going to be talking about simplify the process. All too often, many companies have overcomplicated the processes that are within their business, whether that pertains to marketing, sales, even operations. A lot of times there's overcomplication. And I'll say it right off the bat. It's like, I am not the smartest guy in the room, but what I have is common sense. And I feel like common sense goes a really long way. And so when we're looking at a process, Troy's got amazing common sense as well. And so it's all about simplifying processes. So today we're actually going to share an experience of one of our customers who was working with another business, spending a lot of money on this overcomplication of processes that they were doing, utilizing their lead management system, this company's lead management system. It was super complicated, and the customer was really struggling with it. And Troy's going to get into all those details, but we're going to talk about that customer and then how we actually simplified that process because it was killing his sales. And so simplification is the best way to move forward. So, all right, Troy, I'm going to let you take over. Let's do this.
All right. So like Trevor said, we had a new client come on in this last month that they came to us because they were paying like $1,500 a month to a marketing company to basically automate their lead management system, right? Basically automate all the leads that are coming in so they could close more sales. And even though they were spending like $1,500 a month to make this happen, their sales were actually declining and their leads were getting ignored. And it ended up causing way more headache than it actually solved problems. So they came to us that are like, oh my gosh, you know, can you guys help us out with this? What can you do? So we jumped on a call with them. We started going through our discovery of like, all right, let's see what's going on. Let's understand what you're currently doing, and let's see how we can make it better for you. And right off the bat, it was too complicated. We noticed they were, they were commingling the new leads that were coming in the door with their existing customer base. So it was like, we're going to put all of these, new leads coming in, all our existing customers, all in one place. And then you have to figure out who's who in that platform. And so it was very confusing for the client. They didn't know what, who was a new lead, who was an existing customer, and what was going on. The other issue they had was that they were bouncing back and forth between two platforms. So data was going into one platform, bouncing over to the other platform. So so from a business owner's perspective, they had to go into one platform, start the new lead there, then they had to go into the other platform, do a couple of steps over there, then they had to come back and to the first platform, their CRM, and continue to do things over there. And because information was going back and forth, and the client was having to move back and forth, things just fell apart. And that was a really big issue for them. And there were just too many points of failure, right? If they didn't do one thing in the CRM correctly, then that messed up the leads management platform. If they didn't move somebody in the leads management platform to the right spot, then that messed everything up over in the CRM. And so it just overcomplicated the entire process. So that was the first thing, too complicated. The second thing we noticed was insufficient training. And this is important not only like when we're using platforms as business owners, but also when we are training our staff, right, on what to do. So they had insufficient training. So when we met with them and we went over the current process, I just asked them, hey, why don't you just quickly explain to me exactly how this is supposed to work? Start to finish, when a lead comes in, what's supposed to happen? And the business owner got through one step. They're like, when a lead comes in, I put it into my CRM. I said, okay, excellent. Now what happens from there? And they're like, I honestly don't know. And I'm like, wait, you don't know what happens next? And they're like, no. And I'm like, what are you supposed to do next? I honestly don't know. Like it goes in there, and then I kind of lose it from there. Nothing, I don't know what happens after that, but all I know is I'm not closing any more sales because of it. So they were not trained and simply trained on this is what you're going to do, step by step by step, and show them the whole picture. And I want you to think about that when you're training your employees, whether it's in marketing, whether it's in, operational stuff, whatever work it is, right? Have you made a simple step by step process? And when it's all said and done, can they repeat back to you exactly what that process is that they're supposed to do, right? Because if they can't, if you give them a 5-step process and at the end they can't tell you exactly what those 5 steps are in order, then you did not train them well enough. And that's, really important. And like I said, it's all parts of your business. Trevor just this morning was going over something with our development team. Hey, here is this 5-step process. What's going on here? Did we miss a step? And sure enough, they missed a step and it created a problem, right, with the development. Yep. So it's everything, right? It's every part of the business, making sure that they're trained sufficiently and they know the simple process.
Yeah. And and that's the thing is, and we're good at it, right? Like this is what we do. We help with this stuff. And it's like, they still, because you have to be on top of it, right? And one person messes up or chooses not to follow that process or whatever, it really can create a problem, that then trickles down the line. So processes and simplification of processes is so important, because that's one thing I was going to say, Troy, that's one thing that people say to me all the time when they're looking at like Sotellus or Sotellus Connect, or they say, well, how hard is this to implement? Because my people just really don't want to have to do one more thing. And they understand, as a business owner, I understand, they understand. Sometimes it's hard to get your team to adopt something. So when a system is so robust that it does too much or it's not simple, they don't want it. The employees don't want it. And you might have an amazing product, but you have a problem with attrition because your team doesn't want to adopt it. And really quick, I'll just throw out an example of people, maybe a lot of people have heard of Infusionsoft, maybe not. But, it's also known as Confusionsoft, and because it's so robust. And the thing is, Troy and I, we use Infusionsoft. We love Infusionsoft. It bills millions of dollars for us. But they actually had to rebrand and come out with what they call now Keep, which is a simplified version, because yes, it could do a whole lot for them and it was awesome, but it was too complicated for the average user, the average business. And so they came out with another version that was a simplified version. And that is a huge company that has received, hundreds of millions of dollars in investment and everything. And they realized years down the road that they were like, wow, we need a simple version. So if you think about that, we want to learn from other people, right? And I always look at my competitors who have had hundreds of millions of dollars. Infusionsoft is not my competitor, but I have other competitors that have had hundreds of millions of dollars invested in them. And I say, what are they doing? What have they learned? So I actually get to keep my company, retain my ownership, and I get to learn and feed off of what the mistakes they have spent millions making. I get to watch, and then I get to make adjustments within my company, and it's way better. So that's kind of what we're doing here, guys. That's what we're talking about, is we can look at these other things and we can say, what are they doing? And then how do we simplify our process like they did, right? So anyways, just an example.
Nope, absolutely. That was perfect. All right. The other thing we noticed with him was insufficient reporting. So the reporting he had was way too complicated. He didn't understand what it meant. And the client had no idea how well it was performing or not performing. He had reporting, but it just wasn't set up in a way that was very visually easy for him to know what was going on. And he wasn't, again, trained in where do I look for the reporting and how do I understand the reporting. So that was another big problem there. So we stepped in and we said, yep, we can absolutely help you. And so I'm just going to give you some examples of what we did in this situation. And then I want you to think about how you can apply those to your processes in your company. So the first thing we did is we simplified. We separated the lead management from the CRM. So we kept all of the leads separate in one place and then all of his active customers in another place. So now he was using one system when he's dealing with his leads. And once that lead became a customer, he switched over and he started using his other system to handle the customers. So there was no bouncing back and forth anymore. Everything was handled in one place or the other, depending on whether they were a lead or an active customer. The other thing we did is we created a very simple pipeline, stages that he could easily follow, or easily identify what has happened with that lead and what is going to happen with that lead. So, if you can imagine like these little stages that the lead goes through, from filling out a form to being contacted for the first time, to following up, to closing the sale, to servicing the client, all of that, right? Very simple. And it's very clear that I just, move from one stage to the next stage to the next stage. And by looking at what stage they're in, I know exactly what's happened in the past with that customer or potential lead, and I know exactly what's going to happen in the future with them, right? And it made, again, for his team, very simple. All I got to do is move a stage to the right. We also created very simple communication in each stage to move leads through the pipeline. So that was another issue where there wasn't a lot of communication going on. The team was struggling to communicate. They didn't know who to communicate with. So we automated that communication for them. So that happened at every single stage. We created one place for all of the communication to exist so that they knew exactly what communication, what text messages, what emails have been sent previously. All the responses from the lead had come into the exact same spot. So no matter what team member was looking at that lead, they knew exactly the communication that had happened between their company and that lead. We also created a simple drag and drop process for them to move leads through the stages, so that it was very easy for them to quickly get them into the next stage and then move on to the next lead that they needed to take care of. And then the final thing we did is we created visual reporting for them so that the client knows exactly how many leads have come in, how many have closed, how many are still open that they're working on, and most importantly, how much revenue have they made down to the penny on the leads that they have closed, right? So at a glance, in just a few seconds, the owner knows exactly what's happened with all of those leads and exactly how much revenue has been generated by those leads. Mm-hmm. So the important thing here is they had a lead management system before, but it was just overly complicated. It was hard to understand. It was hard to know what your team members were supposed to do. And what happened? it did nothing for them. In fact, not only not doing anything for them, it hurt their business.
Yep.
Because it was too hard, too complex.
Yep.
So by just taking the process and simplifying it down to the very essentials, what are the simple things that we need to do to move someone from a brand new lead over to a closed customer, and then creating the automation around that. And again, making it very simple is what made all the difference in the world for this customer. Anything else you want to add, Trevor?
Yeah, I mean, just one thing or a couple of things is, one is a lot of people have a CRM system. And the thing about a CRM, a customer management system, right, is that, or a customer relations management system or whatever, the thing about a CRM is it's really good at handling the customer, but it's not usually very good or robust on handling them before they're a customer when it's a lead. So a lot of people are like, yeah, my CRM does a good job once I have them as a customer, but where they're lacking is in the creating or turning this lead into a customer. And that's what we're talking about here. Is that's what we created with Sotellus Connect, is a lead management tool to help not only take that lead, know what's going on with it, but to also automate the process of helping to convert that person into becoming a customer. And then you can hand that person off to the customer management system once they're a customer. So that's the thing, is if you think, oh, I have a CRM, that's not what we're talking about here. That is once they are a customer. We're talking about before they become a customer. Okay. And then the next thing to understand or to highlight, I guess, is this guy was paying $1,500 a month for that overcomplicated system that his team was not able to utilize and was hindering his sales. He came to us and he's spending $199 a month to now close sales. His team loves it. They're like, this is easy and it's effective. And that's the key. So a lot of times a business, when we come in and consult, a business is spending money that they don't need to be spending because they just think, oh, well, I'm just going to go buy this expensive program because it's the best one, or because it's expensive, it must be the best one, or I've heard other people using it and everything like that. Or people say, well, I guess I can't afford one because I don't have the money to buy the one that people use or whatever. Guys, that's the whole point, is even the system should be simple. And that's one thing that Troy and I always do when we build our systems, is it's got to be simple when it comes to pricing and affordable. It's got to be simple when it comes to implementation and utilizing it, right? Execution. It's got to be simple with the training. All of that, we want to keep it as simple as possible, but also maximize the effectiveness of it. So if you have tried things in the past, if you've gone out there, don't be afraid to try something else. Don't be afraid to pick up a different lead management system. Don't be afraid to take action just because you had a bad situation prior, or you spent too much money, or it wasn't effective. That is one of the worst things you can do. I get people also in the marketing side of it that are like, well, I did PPC, it doesn't work. Well, no, you may have worked with a crappy person who ran PPC, or you tried to run it yourself, or so, be careful. Be careful in having these solidified mindsets about these different aspects that Troy and I talk about all the time. Because when you draw a hard line, a lot of times it's your pride that's going to get in the way of actually moving forward and helping your business. So it's not 100% on topic of simplifying the process, but it is just some business advice from Troy and I for doing this for, the last 24 years. So, all right, guys, homework for the week. This week, look at your current processes. Are they too complicated? Is one of them too complicated? Does your team struggle to implement it, or doesn't like it, doesn't want to implement it because they're like, this is so dumb. This doesn't make my life easier. It makes my life harder. Take a look at that and then identify whichever process that is, or maybe it's all of your processes, or maybe you don't even have processes set up yet. And then identify one thing and say, I'm going to create a process around this, or I'm going to create a better process around this, or I'm going to find a better solution this week. Okay? That's what you guys need to do. It's all about action. You need actionable items. And that's what Troy and I try to give you in the homework every single week. That's what we try to talk about in the podcast every single week. We love you guys. We appreciate you. If you need help with lead management, reach out. We've got Sotellus Connect. We're launching it out to all of our customers. We've been beta testing it. It's working really well. We've got over a dozen customers on it now, and they are crushing it. So if you need lead management help, okay, you need to know what's going on with your leads. You need to know, are they converting? How many are converting? What's the conversion percentage? How many are you losing? How many is your team still working on? Automation created. You need text messages automatically going out and emails and phone calls and all this stuff. Reach out to us because we have got the best program. I mean, that's the thing. Troy and I know what we're talking about. So when we build something, we build it so that it works the way it should. And that's what's super cool. So anyways, we love you guys. We appreciate you. Thanks for listening. We will catch you guys on the next episode of Sotellus Time.